We've got a very packed session today, and so a lot to cover here, a lot of resources to look at. So, just to get started, I'd like to acknowledge that I am presenting today from the traditional, ancestral, unceded territory of the Hausit people in the community of Moktasis. I would like to also recognize all of the lands for which the recipes and cookbook and complementary resources were compiled. You will notice that on each of the recipes, a land acknowledgement is stated on the bottom of the first page. Additionally, all of the educational uh, posters and digital scrolling resources have land acknowledgements that were provided by the producers, processors that were profiled in these resources. Okay, so a little overview of the webinar. We're going to be looking at the cookbook, the cook-off competition in the cookbook, along with the recipe submission contest winner stories, an overview of the supplementary resources, and at the end, we will have a question and answer period. And so just to notice, this webinar will be recorded and stored on the Farm to School BC website, as I mentioned before. Sorry, there's just someone at my door. Okay, so a little bit about Farm to School BC. Farm to School BC is a provincial food education program administered by the Public Health Association of BC. We bring healthy, local, and sustainable food to the plates and minds of K-12 students across British Columbia using a regional hub model. We embrace, celebrate, and fund a diversity of food education projects and encourage schools to pursue unique activities and initiatives that best serve their needs, the students and communities, while adhering to our core pillars of hands-on learning, healthy school food, and school and community connectedness. We do that through a regional approach. So we have regional coordinators in each one, situated in each of the health authorities, and they work directly with schools in the community, support them, make connections to local community producers and processors. This model allows us to really have our work guided by the voices within those communities. And so this is a key approach to the work that Farm to School BC does. So the regional coordinators are involved in their local school food system in a number of ways, including connecting youth to volunteer opportunities, profiling and highlighting school food champions, hosting events, and providing professional development support for educators with the goal of building school and community relationships. Okay. Okay, so we're making an impact in schools across BC, funding both large and small scale projects that provide students with opportunities to develop food literacy. So on the page here, you can see a number of the different kinds of varied projects that we've worked with over the past 18 years. We funded nearly 400 schools. We've also created a number of resources and continue to develop lesson plans that support teacher engagement. And above are just a few of the unique resources that we've created over the past few years. We're currently excited to be working on some more resources, including a new farm field trip and school food celebration guide. And we have some other resources that we plan to launch in the coming months. So I'd like to draw your attention to an exciting new webinar series that we just launched or began promotions rather the other day in partnership with the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. It's going to be starting in just over 2 weeks. So this webinar series will focus on how educators are developing and advancing agriculture and food education courses. As there are no standardized agriculture courses within the BC curriculum, this series will showcase models of BAA and other forms of accredited courses that are developed locally by teachers. As part of this project, we'll also be developing a teacher network and resource sharing platform for those interested in exploring these concepts further. The following profiled programs that you see as part of this series will also be showcased in a resource that will be published in the fall that will further explore how they developed these programs, maintained them, and connected them to the curriculum. To entice and encourage teacher participation, we're also awarding 10 $1,000 farm field trip grants for those who attend and participate in this series. So we're kind of treating it a little bit like a cohort as to be a part of, and we're really trying to build a network of teachers interested in this work. So now I'm going to pass it over to Alana now from the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, and she's going to give a little debrief on Feed BC. Over to
Hey
you, Lana.
everyone. Thanks, Marcus. My name's Alana, as Marcus introduced me as. I work on the youth development team at the Ministry of Agriculture and Food and support the work of the Feed BC program. So Feed BC, if you haven't heard about it before, it's a provincial initiative led by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food. I have a few colleagues, I think, on the call joining us today too. It's all about encouraging, inspiring, and supporting a shift towards serving more BC grown food in public institutions, including schools. So, as part of the broader Feeding Futures school food program and in line with the guiding principles, Feed BC is working closely with the Ministry of Education and Childcare, along with school districts and food supply partners, to help bring more BC food into new and growing K-12 school food programs. So in schools, Feed BC is focused on two key areas. First, increasing the purchase of BC food for school meal programs by supporting schools and districts in sourcing and tracking more local food over time. And second, this is where we're coming in, is helping to weave learning about local food, agriculture, and food systems into those programs. So as you can see on the slide, one of the Feeding Futures guiding principles is all about supporting BC food. And the key way that we can bring that principle to life in schools is by building local food literacy. So I think Madison popped the link in the chat. Thanks for doing that. You can learn more about BC food and local food literacy within the Feeding Futures program at that link. So local food literacy really helps us achieve many different goals. It can help students build food skills, spark career interest, support reconciliation, and strengthen our local food system. When students learn about local food and where it comes from, they begin to value it, and that's how we build a culture that supports BC food and food systems. On the youth development team at the Ministry of Agriculture and Food, we support these hands-on learning opportunities and about growing, cooking, and understanding food systems. And our goal is to contribute to that culture shift where local food becomes a valued part of our school communities across BC. And so really that's the purpose behind the Great B.C. School Food Cook-Off and the resources created in collaboration with Farm to School that you'll hear all about very soon. So with that, thanks for joining, and I'll pass it back to Marcus.
Thanks, Alana. Yeah, I just want to point out the vision behind this cooking competition and all these resources really came from Feed BC, and we're really excited that we were able to partner with them and work on the development of them. Just having a chance to sit with the recipe cookbook over the past few weeks and read all the different recipes has been very, very exciting and inspiring. So we were really fortunate to Lana Popham, who was not able to be here in the Minister of Agriculture and Food, sent over a message to say hello to everybody and to basically introduce the resource. And she also has an introduction within it. So we have a video loaded up here. I'm just going to stop sharing for 1 second to be able to pop it up and hear from Lana.
Hi, I'm Lana Popham, BC's Minister of Agriculture and Food. I'm so pleased to be joining you from the territories of the Lekwungen peoples, the Songhees Nation and the Esquimalt Nation. Thank you to Farm to School BC for organizing the contest and for getting so many young chefs into the kitchen. The kitchen's one of my favorite places to be. And congratulations to all the teachers and students who participated in the Great BC School Food Cook-Off. Thank you for your tasty and creative recipes. Can't wait to try them. The new cookbook is sure to take its readers on a flavorful adventure that explores a wide variety of local ingredients grown right here in our province. BC is home to wonderful farmers and producers that grow, raise, and harvest healthy, nutritious food for British Columbians to enjoy with our family and friends. It's very encouraging that so many young people are inspired and excited to learn more about the food produced in our communities. And not only because it tastes so good, but because knowing more about where the food we eat comes from helps create a strong connection to the people that make up BC's agriculture and food industry. And that's why our ministry's programs like Buy BC and Feed BC are so important. These initiatives support the people behind our food by shining a light on local products at grocery stores and farmers markets, highlighting Indigenous foods and getting more BC food into our schools, schools like yours. Thank you again for your collaboration at the time and the time you put into creating the unique and delicious recipes featured in the Great B.C. School Food Cookbook. Don't forget, always add a cup of creativity, 2 tablespoons of passion, and a pinch of enthusiasm along with your favorite BC ingredients to every dish you create. Bon appetit!
So happy to have Lana back in that role. She's always been a really big, strong champion of this work. And so, okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and dive into the cookbook. Okay, so yeah, so I wanted to first give a thanks before showcasing all of these resources to all of those schools who submitted recipes to the Great School Food Cook-Off. We received over 90 recipes in total from all across the province. We wish that we could have added all of them into the cookbook, but obviously there were some restrictions in the size of the cookbook, and so the ones that did meet those criteria were included in. There was 60 in total. So we did want to thank all of the other ones who did add those in. We really appreciated that. We had about almost 20 that came from the Fraser Health region, about 12 from the interior, 17 from the island, 9 in the northern BC, and 9 on the coastal region. So there was a real diversity of recipes that came in, and certainly, as you'll see, a diversity in the types of recipes that were submitted. So as mentioned in the previous slide, the cook-off competition was a success. It generated tremendous interest, which speaks to the growing interest in school food and local school food connections. 91 submissions representing classes all across BC. The cook-off had components of hands-on learning that were demonstrated, and you'll hear from some of the teachers here in a few moments. It had a real goal of connecting with local BC food. And there were 5 prize draw winners, $1,000 each, that was used towards a farm field trip or school food infrastructure. So the cookbook itself, let's take a look at what came out of this exciting cook-off. So in total, 60 recipes were created by classes across BC with BC ingredients. The recipes in this book include breakfast, snack, and lunch components. And so there's kind of their own chapters throughout the book. They're all quick, easy, and scalable, making them ideal for menu planning. They provide inspiration for where you may be able to source local BC food. They reflect a diversity of eating habits and food cultures across BC. They're student and teacher created and approved, and there's a recognition of land, language, and nations where each recipe originated from. So Madison will put in the cookbook link there, which is now available on the Feed BC website for yours to peruse, and we'll also be able to share that at the end. So we were fortunate to have 2 introductions in the cookbook, one from Minister of Agriculture and Food, Lana Popham, and one from Chef Jared Custenahin-Williams. Both messages are really meaningful and ground us in the importance of food and place and the people who are part of this incredible food system. And that's who we are really celebrating today. And they did a very good job of that in both of their introductions. So just wanted to really encourage you to take a moment to read these introductions before diving into the recipes. Also wanted to take a moment to really thank Custenahin for being a consultant on this project and the support for the recognition of Indigenous culture, language, and land throughout the development of these resources from start to finish. He was involved in it, and I felt like that really bolstered these different resources we're sharing today. And I wanted to also recognize the work of young agrarians, growing chefs, and I see you on the call today, Brent Mansfield, for their contributions on the development of these resources we're about to share. They were really great partners in us working towards all of the creations of what we're sharing here today. So just a quick note on nutrition. So the cookbook does provide some guidance on creating meals and snacks with a variety of nutrients and connections to food categories, and provides links within it to additional resources found in the BC School Food Toolkit. So you'll find this in the opening sections of the cookbook. So the cookbook layout. So this is what you're going to see when you start adventuring into here. And here's just one example of a pretty incredible recipe, actually, that came from Sansfit, BC. So each recipe will occupy 2 or more pages, depending on how long the directions and ingredients are within it. There'll be information, as you see on the school at the top, which grades were involved in developing it, whether it's a lunch item, vegetarian, vegan. So it checks marks off of these. Serving sizes, prep time, cook time, obviously ingredients and directions. But there's some nice other pieces that were involved in the cook-off as criteria for submitting the recipes that are profiled here. And I have a couple slides to show those. So the following story came from George Vanier Elementary in Surrey with their Kula Satham recipe. So each recipe has a story that connects to something personal from those who submitted it, cultural, or simply highlights a favorite recipe of the school or community. This one's really incredible, and I'm just going to read it. We chose Abisha's recipe since our group had won the cultural traditional recipe competition in class. Back in Sri Lanka, my grandmother would prepare this dish for my family. On special nights under the moonlight, I'd sit on a blanket with my family and indulge in the kula satham and enjoy it with my family. Now that my grandma has passed away, whenever we eat this dish, it reminds me of my beloved grandmother and the precious memories that came with it. It's really just a lovely message. And there's a lot of really nice stories throughout this book that tell the story of how it came to be and why the specific class chose a recipe. Within each recipe, as part of the cook-off competition, we challenged chefs and students to source BC produced and processed foods, and the results were stunning. Each recipe indicates which elements of each recipe were sourced locally in BC, and just wanted to show 3 examples. So on the left is a West Coast sushi bowl from Charles Hay Secondary in Prince Rupert. In the middle is a tomato basil feta omelet quesadilla from Kamalka Secondary in Clearwater. And on the right is the Three Sisters Bannock tacos from École Panorama Ridge Secondary in Surrey. Each recipe has a territory-specific land honoring that recognizes the traditional territories whose land the school rests on. And we greatly appreciated the thoughtfulness of the land honorings and the linkages that they made to the local peoples and cultures. So you can just see the arrow pointing. So within each recipe, you'll see that, and those were submitted from the schools or chefs or students themselves. So each recipe has that element. Okay, this is an exciting moment. So we've invited in some of the recipe winners to join us. So we had 5 lucky winners. We selected this as long as they met the criteria. We selected by lottery. So everyone was a winner, but this is how we came to find our 5 recipe submission winners. 1 per health authority is the way that we picked it. We wanted to have a diversity across the province. And so we're excited to have some of them here today. They're just going to come and speak a little bit about their experience for a couple minutes on submitting the recipe and what it meant to their classroom and how they connected to local food and what some of the students learned. So I will welcome Andrea Nauta from Comox, BC and Airport Elementary to come and join us for a moment to speak about the Bannock is Beta recipe.
Hi, thanks for having us. We're so excited that we were selected as winners. We have great plans for our prize money. So our recipe was Bannock is Beta. Originally we had tea in there because we were going to do a spruce tea, but we didn't quite get that far because time didn't allow, but that was part of our original plan. But we wanted to do Bannock because that's something that we like to do in our school because I'm the Indigenous support worker. So I went into the class originally and we talked about what kind of things that we could do to find locally. And we discovered that we have producers or hunters for elk. So we have, excuse me, elk farmers here. We also have lots of places, farm stands that make their own bannock or seasoning blends and stuff. So we use that in our recipe as well. Sorry, my throat's a little sore. So I can't even talk. we locally source things from like farm stands and local businesses that are around our area. And then we wanted to include as much nutrition as possible. So we have veggies on there, we have dairy, we have protein, and the kids really enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun coming up with this. It was like over time, just talking about like what we can come up with. And originally we had so many different ideas. They wanted to make tacos, they wanted to make soup, they wanted to make everything because they were just so excited to have it. So we came up with the pizza just because all the kids really love pizza. So I thought it was a fun thing for them to do. Um, with our prize money, we actually already decide on what we're gonna get, and we're so excited. We're gonna get a industrial size dehydrator so that we can use our locally found berries and fruits and stuff and dehydrate them and make snacks for the kids. So that's really cool. And then just a couple little kitchen things that we can use to prepare foods and snacks for the kids throughout the days. Yeah.
Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, this was there wasn't a whole lot of recipes that had elk in them. So it was pretty cool when I came across this one. So yeah, pizza, it's a winner. Thanks so much for joining us. Good luck with your dehydrator and all that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Bri Materi from Fraser Lake Elementary in Fraser Lake, BC, to come talk a little bit about her experience with the poached apple mac breadsticks.
Hello, folks. So my name is Bri. I'm a foods and PE teacher here in Fraser Lake. So what we did for ours was my students decided that like, yes, we want to do this. I'm like, okay, so now what? And they're like, I don't know. So what we decided to do was increase the challenge a little bit because they were some older students for our grade 11s and 12s. So what I challenged them with was to also incorporate more of a fusion feel for a recipe because the students had mentioned here that they feel like that they get lumped in and like sort of stuck in a rut of like Northern cuisine is boring. So what we did is we took some familiar recipes and then took something that maybe they haven't ever done before. And so what they did here is we had a really good recipe for breadsticks that they loved. And then they said, well, we've always wanted to try like putting on macaroni and cheese. So I'm like, okay, so now how do we up the nutrition? How do we up like the game here a little bit? How do we elevate that? They're like, well, what if we poach some apples? And I'm like, well, try it. And then another group's like, I want to try strawberries. So it was super fun to see them try all sorts of different sort of variations on the topic. And then for the actual like local produced things, what we did is we tried to do as local as we could here. Now it's cold here a lot of the time. So we had to really be very creative with what we did. So the students were like, well, we can access apples. So that one's probably better than strawberries, for example. And then with the cheese, we were like, really? There's like cheese produced in BC? And let me tell you, some of the students have never tried Swiss cheese. They've never tried even like, what was the other one? I think it was like Havarti, things that like, I'm from the South. So things that I very much took for granted. So we did a little like taste test to see like what would be the best one to put on there. So we were able to like source some BC cheeses. We don't really have any up here that I could find in the North. But we were able to source some and they were like, whoa. So like their minds were blown a little bit with the different variety and the different options that we have in our system here. And so it was so cool to see the kids like actually get into something and be like, no, but this one's better. And do you know the flavor profile of the apple with this kind of cheese, right? It was so interesting to watch and to see. So I was delighted that they put their best foot forward and they just went all out. And not to mention, we got to speak a lot about food security, which is near and dear to my heart. And the students are also like, oh yeah, hey, we've got a garden coming into our school next year. Maybe we can plant stuff that like we could use all year round. And so like their expansion on what is even possible has really grown, like just their whole thought process. So this was a great challenge. We loved it. They voted. They were super thrilled that they won the lottery. And what they've decided is they're like, can we please like fix up our tea towels, our cloths, and tablespoons? And then they voted on a big thing, and they wanted to do pasta makers for it so that we could get some of our brains cooking and getting some like homemade pasta and things like that, and try out all the different produce that we can do with pasta. So yeah, thanks for having us and thanks for running this. It was fantastic.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah, I think that cheese you were thinking of was the applewood smoked, wasn't it? I think that's what, yeah, that was it. Yeah, nice. Okay, thank you so much. Best of luck with all things. Up next, we have Christine Hume from Cypress Park Primary from West Vancouver, BC. I believe she's on the call here. I will pass it over to her to talk a little bit about her recipe.
Hi, thanks, Marcus. So I am a grade 2 teacher, and I started the lesson with just saying, what's a recipe that is meaningful to you and your families. If you don't ever know what a recipe looks like, because they may not have seen what a template even looks like, I showed them, usually there's a list of ingredients, and brought in curriculum connections to math with measuring, science. They were working on matter, so bringing in chemical change and all that good stuff. And so had them let me know either a favorite family recipe they have or something that they really like to eat. And so they created their own recipe on a template. We brought them all together, and I had them look at them and sort them and into categories. They figured out they kind of belonged in the breakfasty area, a lunch dinner area, and a dessert. And the desserts were very heavy in the pile of wanting to share. So we kind of broke them down. I did previously also preface this with, it'd be great to put in one of these 10 BC foods. And I had the picture up. And so we had the desserts were the highest. So we said, let's look at the desserts and break it down. And what are these ingredients including? And so someone had carrot cake, someone had chocolate cake, someone else had, cinnamon buns. And so we said, why don't we create something like together, and kind of morphed all these ingredients together and came up with carrot chocolate chip muffins. So they include the BC eggs and BC carrots. And so we started designing that, and again, talking about math and the science aspect of it as well, and came up with that together. And so we created that. And what's been neat is I sent the recipe out as well to families, and I've had students come back next, weeks later, showing me their snack. We made these at home, and now they're in our snack boxes with our parents. So that's been a cute connection for sure. We're very fortunate in West Van. We have a robust Feeding Futures program where there's lots of access points to access funding for students either facing food insecurity. We do have grab and go baskets of bars and fruit that's supplied every week. And so one thing we then wanted to really do with the prize money was have a Earth Bites, a nonprofit society, come in to help us with gardening. And so they'll be coming in next week to all 4. We're a really small primary school, so we have 4 classes. So they'll come in to see all 4 classes. We'll get to garden in our own garden bed, and then create a harvest a salad by the end of it, hopefully, if we get good weather. And so being able to have Earth Bites come in, 3 separate sessions for all 4 classes from now till June. And so, yeah, it's kind of, I think I answered all the questions. I did have like a PowerPoint prepared, but that's okay. It had like all the cute little pictures of the children.
Thanks, Christine. My son actually saw this recipe when I was preparing the presentation yesterday, and he was saying that we have to make this one. So that was kind of fun.
Nice. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, up next is Tricia Cole representing Cindric Elementary from Surrey, BC, and their chickpeas and rice recipes. If Trisha, you're on the call there, please feel free to unmute and let us know a little bit about your recipe.
Well, thank you. We're so grateful for being selected. The kids were super excited to get to actually make something. We kind of started off by talking about personal eating choices as part of our health and nutrition unit. And we were really linking that to talking about energy, which is what we've been working on in science recently. So we talked about the climate footprint involved in producing and transporting foods and why buying local reduces greenhouse gas emissions. We also talked about what we wanted to make, and our class is very diverse, but there's a lot of Indo-Canadian students in our class, in our grade 7 class, and it was really important to them to have something that reflected their pride and their cultural connections. And we took a look at some of the top BC grown ingredients, and we found out that tomatoes, onions, chickpeas are all grown here in BC, and so we decided to choose a recipe that used those ingredients. We're hoping to use our prize money to, as part of our outdoor education program, they're going to be making locally sourced foods outside. So they're very excited about that. And I can't wait to see how that unfolds. I've never tried that before, so that'll be quite an adventure. And I'd really love to invite our parent volunteer, Mrs. Colkett, to speak now a little bit more about our cultural connection.
Hi, thank you everyone for giving us this prize. We're so happy for the kids to have it. My best memory is about this chickpeas. Like growing up, chickpeas were only made for special occasions like weddings, but we didn't know growing up what was the nutrition value in the chickpeas. But when I came to Canada, then we saw this Canada food guide and says like chickpeas have lots of protein in it. So since then I start making it regularly. And my daughter, this is Avneet Kalkat, is from grade 7, and she loves it. She loves the chickpeas. And I appreciate you guys pick our recipe, and we look forward making it for kids for school, and all the kids came to help, and they were surprised how long the process to make the food, because when as a parent we don't, the kids are not always in the kitchen to make these curries take long time. And we have other cultures kids and they love the food. They were all appreciated and it was good. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us. It was really great to have you jump on the call as well and bring a student along. That's wonderful. You know what? I didn't know that chickpeas were grown in BC, but I see in your recipe it recognized that they were grown in Armstrong. So that's awesome. Thanks so much. Next up, I will just give this quick presentation here on Simpcw School in Oliver, BC, who submitted and their award-winning recipe of grilled chicken wrapped with Saskatoon goddess dressing. And I'll just read a little bit from their story. So all of our cooking is done on an open fire, we needed to create a rustic yet adaptable dish, leading us to the grilled chicken wrapped with Saskatoon goddess dressing, inspired by 3 students and rooted in our First Nations traditions. To indigenize the dish, we incorporated a Silk's 4 Food Chiefs ingredient and held a taste test between the classic green goddess and our Saskatoon version, the latter one. The prize money, as all of our cooking is done on the open fire, we needed to create a rustic yet adaptable dish. So that's how they came up with this one. The prize money will go toward purchasing seasonally, locally sourced ingredients for cooking activities, as well as materials such as a wheelbarrow, some seeds for the garden, and new leather cooking gloves that allow students to engage more meaningfully with food harvesting preparation and preservation. So thanks so much, Simpcw School. Okay, so now we're going to look into some of the supplementary resources that were also designed in and around and that connect to the cookbook. And so these posters that are here were all chosen based on a survey results of the top BC products purchased by K-12 schools during the 2023-24 school year. Well, it's not a complete list of BC products. It gave us a great starting point for creating signage that can support and celebrate school food programs. So as you can see, here is one of the posters of the All About BC products. There's 10 in total, and they're listed there at the top. They're all these all were all of the information that's on each of these slides, and I have another slide that comes up after, were the product of interviews with BC producers and processors. So they're profiled within each one. And each poster has facts and information. And so you can use these in a number of different ways. You can print and post them in cafeterias, hallways, grab and go stations, and classroom. They can also be utilized in a classroom setting and connected to a specific snack or meal. So it's just a little up close look at some of the interesting facts and the profile of local producers and processors that you'll find on each poster. As well, you'll notice at the bottom, land acknowledgement for where each of the farmers is located. So we worked along with young agrarians and interviewed different producers and processors that represented each one of these crops that are profiled in the posters and really wanted to tell their story. So they gave us some information on varieties of apples that they grow or different kind of quirky facts about being farmers or processors for the specific items that they work with. We've got nice quotes that are in here and also connections to local indigenous language and in some cases what apples may be called in that language, which is a nice touch as well. And so additionally, we also have our scrolling slideshows. And so these are also connected to the poster. So they're the similar crops, but what they are is a scrolling slideshow of each of the items. So there's approximately 10 slides for each item that have information on growing facts, nutritional information, indigenous language components, producer processor profiles. So how you can use these is in high school cafeteria or hallway screens as like an auto scrolling. And I'll show, I have one that I'm going to open up here just to kind of give you an idea of what it looks like. They can also be useful in classroom learning environments, as many of the slides have quiz kind of fun facts components that pop up. So these can be useful as well to kind of complement the posters. We have primary and secondary levels of information. Oops, wrong slide. I'm going to open up just to show you what one of them looks like here. I've got it loaded. Okay, just give me 1 second. Okay, so this one is just all about BC berries. So a little different than the carrots one, but kind of the same concept. So each one kind of goes with, it'll have this, and this will auto scroll if you want it to on your computer screens in your office or in the hallways. And it essentially pops up the information after a question. I'll just go through a few of these. So which type of berry do you think we grow the most of? BC. And it pops up kind of in that way. Did you know? So there's a number of different facts that each slide has. And there's also some components on some nations' historical usage of fruits within the province, some nutritional background on the different crops or items, the farmer profiles for each one. This one focusing on a Richmond blueberry grower. So it's a lot of the story of those who are kind of the ones responsible for bringing all of the local BC food to our plates. So, and then there's always this nice kind of component of the language that's added in to the slide decks. So yeah, let me come back to the presentation. Okay. So hopefully you can see the screen there now. So
Not
also
sharing
we're very
yet, Marcus.
Oh, it's not sharing it? Okay, let me just see what's going on. How about now?
Yep, just need to go into presenter mode.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Madison. Wasn't sure there. I didn't see it pop up on my other one, but okay, here we go. So also supplementary resources are our activity sheets, which are coming soon. They're just being finalized right now, but they are curriculum connected activity sheets. Each of them feature BC foods. So we'll have two different activity sheets for primary or elementary and then for secondary. And these are meant to help students dive deeper into learning and critical and creative thinking about each food item using the poster and slideshow as a starting point for exploration. So how can you use these? You can offer them during snack or meal times for students. Maybe there's a student who needs something to help keep their mind occupied during a meal time, or maybe there is a snack that your students are curious and want to learn more about. And so you can see on the right, that's kind of the first page you would see within each of them. And I have a couple other slides here that I can show. So to support educators, each set, which focuses on an example, this is greenhouse vegetables, but if it's carrots or it's bread or whatnot, each set will include a separate page with background resources, links, an answer key, and correct curriculum connections. This allows teachers to easily find supplemental materials and quickly see which content areas and competencies are covered. These will also be located on the Feed BC website in the K-12 website, along with the posters and scrolling slideshows. So I was going to just take you in to just show you where you can find these resources on the website, because there's a lot of resources currently existing on the Feed BC website. So just hold up 1 second and I'm just going to pull it up. Okay, yep, there it is showing. Great. So if you land on the Feed BC and kindergarten to grade 12 school site, which Madison can put in the chat there and show you where to find it, lots of resources in here around feeding future, guiding principles. Yeah, a lot of great stuff in here. But if you scroll down about halfway down the page, you will get into local food literacy resources. And that's where you will find a PDF version of the cookbook. And I'll just show you what it would look like when you arrive at it. Just pops up right here. You can download it. As you scroll through, you can find all of the recipes in the beginning. It's got table of contents broken down by which meal you're looking to create under. And then, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. It just scroll through down this way. So that's where you can find the recipe book. If you're looking for the posters or the scrolling slideshows for each of the items, apples, berries, bread, carrots, cheese, chicken, eggs, greenhouse vegetables, milk, yogurt, they're all right here. And you would open them up and they would look just like this, able also for download for each of them, and they can be easily printable. I already opened up the scrolling slideshows, but it's right there as well. And then, of course, there's other resources here. And the activities will soon be stored in the same location, the activity sheets. So stay tuned for those. They should be completed pretty soon. I don't know if Alana wants to speak to a deadline on that, or maybe it's we're still just kind of waiting to see how that's going to develop. But I know they're coming along pretty close now at this point.
Yeah, thanks,
Okay.
Marcus. I just want to point out too, there is one scrolling slideshow with all 10 food items. So that's just at the bottom of that list. And that's really great if you want to put it up on a cafeteria screen or hallway screen because it's a little bit longer. Thanks, Marcus.
Okay, just get up here. Yeah, thanks for that. That's true. There's one that just goes through all of them. So, okay. Um, okay. Okay, so we're doing pretty good right here on time. So we wanted to just open up the room to see if anyone had any questions or wanted to know anything or find out any more details about some of the resources that we've shared today. You're welcome to put your question in the chat, Or if you want to put up your hand, we can just pick you to speak and ask your question, and we'll do our best to answer. We have about maybe 5-ish minutes to do that if there's any questions. I'm just looking at some of the comments that are in here to Mary Rodriguez. We use their beans in our meal programs grown in arms. Oh, cool. Very good. I don't see any questions. Oh, is the book available in print or just digital? Currently it's digital, but it's printable. But there's no bound copies at present. And I don't know if Alana wants to speak if there ever is a plan to that, but currently it's downloadable. It's for you to access. You can isolate certain recipes, certainly, for downloads. But any thoughts on that, Alana?
Yeah, thanks, Joanne, for the question. Great question. Yeah, as Marcus said, it's just digital right now, but depending on interest and budget, if we're able to, it might be something that we can do in the future. So we'll just keep an eye on that. And if there's lots of interest, it's something we will definitely consider. But as Marcus said, yeah, we hope to make it simple, that you could just print the recipes that you wanted to try out. So yeah, thanks for your feedback. I think you're muted, Marcus.
Thank you. I was just saying, looks like we're already getting some interest. Alana, Marin has said we would love a print copy in the future. I love the posters. Approximately how big will they print off to? Madison, do you know the exact measurements of them, or Lana? They're not 11 by 17, are they? Or go ahead.
Oh yeah, they are 8.5 by 11. So they'll print off on like one of those longer pieces of paper that you should have at your school. So that's something we wanted to think about, was that you'd be able to print them off easily at schools.
Thanks for that question, Brian. Any other questions or comments?
Meg currently has a hand up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't see it. If you can, yeah, just keep an eye on it. It's just sharing the screen. I can't see the hands up. Yes, please. Is it Meg, did you say?
Yeah. Hi there.
Okay, hi,
it's Meg from Vernon. I teach at Kalabaka Secondary School and super excited to see my kids' 2 recipes in there. I just wanted to point out really quick, and you shared an example of it in the presentation. You've got the one recipe correct as Coldstream, BC. It's just outside of Vernon. But the other one you've got is Clearwater. And not that I don't love Clearwater, but the other one on page 130, I think, is Coldstream as well.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
for Kalabaka Secondary. So hopefully, let me just, yeah, page 130. I'm just looking at it online.
Okay.
So yeah, I could have sent it in an email, but just thought I'd put it on there. But thanks so much for this. My kids loved it as well. If anybody else has tower gardens in their school, that was our kids' inspiration for our spin on local foods, because they were overgrown with, not overgrown, but they were happy.
Which was your recipe, Meg? Sorry.
So the one was the quesadilla, the tomato feta quesadilla, and then also the gourmet mac and cheese.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, thank you.
Nice. Thank you. And thanks for pointing that out. We'll make that out for sure.
No problem.
I got a comment for Joanne. If you do print, make sure to include a date of publication and consider ISBN. This sounds like a librarian background, which my partner is. But good point. From Kara Majit, this is great for kids to learn at a young age to make food and learn. I agree. Absolutely. Okay. Taste Canada Cookbook. Oh, okay. Awesome. Good points then. Someone with a background in this work. Good comment. Madison, do you have any other comments on deck?
Nope, nothing over here.
Okay. If anyone does have any, you can feel free to add it into the chat, because we have a few more minutes. So I'm just going to move along to one more promotion and then to do a wrap up here. And you can also follow up after if you have any If you notice anything within your recipes that Meg caught or anything like that, happy to know that information, juggling all of the different ones that came in. So I will move along to the next slide. Yeah, so it's just a reminder. I mentioned this right at the very beginning. So if you joined at the hour, you would have heard this, but about the webinar series that'll be starting up Tuesday, April 29th. I could see a lot of people who are on this call being interested in it. The people who are being focused on here, Joe Massey and Tanya Toth, over a decade of experience managing their program in school farm. Crystal Tenbrink and Squamish Can and Aaron, they're about in year 4, I believe, with the House Sound Secondary School Farm Project. Really unbelievable that they're able to run enough of a profit to keep a manager on site that oversees the production of the farm, which is really exciting. And then part 3, we'll be having Dan Schulbeck and Shelley Crack from Haida Gwaii joining us to talk a lot about their program and its connection with Indigenous foods and land-based learning. So that's going to be really excited. Dan's been, along with Shelley, have been doing that work for a number of years as well. So we're very, very excited to be back online in a couple weeks. So please do join us. Yeah, just wanted to give a big thank you to all of the different partners that have been involved in this. Feed BC, the province of British Columbia, the ones I mentioned earlier, who helped in gathering all of these resources. It was a really wonderful project to be a part of. That's the contact for Feed BC if you're looking for any more information. Again, this webinar will be stored on the Farm to School BC YouTube account, and we hope to launch that as soon as we can. Yeah, and obviously a big thank you to all of you who have shown an interest in coming and being part of this webinar. Again, thank you to all of you who submitted recipes and really are the bread and butter of this recipe cookbook. And so it's amazing to have it. There's really a diversity of recipes in here. It's very, very exciting. They're feasible to do in a school setting. They're healthy and just full of nutrition. And so yeah, so a big thank you to all of you for taking the effort to provide recipes for the cookbook. And if you want to stay connected with Farm to School BC, there's our website. We have newsletters, regional newsletters that go out, and obviously you can follow us on social media.